This is KGW News at noon.
And we start with new information from Portland Public Schools. The district says online learning will be extended through January 28th. The superintendent made that announcement at last night's school board meeting. District leaders say our COVID numbers aren't where they need to be to fully reopen. Families will be getting more information soon. But just yesterday, health officials announced Oregon has actually reversed the progress it made over the summer. New COVID cases here have shot up 25% since the end of August. Also today, the police officer charged with murdering George Floyd in Minneapolis is out of jail this noon. Derek Chauvin posted $1 million bail today and is expected to appear in court in March of next year. Video captured Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck during an arrest. His death sparked protests nationwide and intensified the conversation about racial injustice. Chauvin faces up to 400 years in prison if convicted of second-degree murder. Now to an update on President Trump and his case of coronavirus. The White House physician says the president has been symptom-free for more than 24 hours, but the doctor didn't go into detail about which medications the president is taking. Also making news today, the COVID stimulus deal. It is in limbo right now. President Trump stopped negotiations and then appeared to reverse course, leaving the White House with some explaining to do. Tracy Potts has more on how the back and forth could affect your stimulus check.
Stimulus deliberations shut down in the middle of a pandemic by a president recovering from COVID-19. He first tweeted that negotiations are off until after the election. The stock market took a nosedive.
Clearly, this is a huge shock to the system. We know millions of Americans are out of work and they're depending on another stimulus check.
Then, in an apparent reversal, the president said he's ready to sign off on stimulus checks and billions for airlines and small business loans. The White House explaining the big deal is off, but the president wants to deal with each issue separately. Still contagious, Mr. Trump says he's planning to attend the presidential debate in Miami next week.
We have to ask if the stress of a debate is really worth taking along with the infectious implications of that potentially to the people in the debate.
The president's posts comparing COVID to the flu were taken down by Facebook and flagged on Twitter.
You don't get a pandemic that kills 1 million people, and it isn't even over yet with influenza. So it is not correct to say it's the same as flu.
At least 18 people tied to the White House have now tested positive. The latest, advisor Stephen Miller at the Pentagon. Defense officials tell NBC the Joint Chiefs chair and other top brass are quarantined after a Coast Guard official caught the virus. Turns out 7 of the 8 Joint Chiefs were in a meeting Friday with that Coast Guard admiral. One was traveling. The other 7 are now quarantined, along with the director of the National Security Agency. He was there too. Tracy Potts, NBC News.
We are just 27 days away from the election, and here are 2 debates to keep on your radar. Tonight, you can watch the vice presidential debate. Mike Pence and Kamala Harris will face off for their first and only time this campaign. Live coverage starts at 6 o'clock here on KGW. Also tonight, Washington Governor Jay Inslee will debate his challenger, Lauren Culp. We will have that streaming on KGW.com starting at 7 p.m. In the meantime, Governor Inslee announced Washington will loosen some COVID restrictions. You can now dine indoors at restaurants with people outside of your immediate household. Socially distant youth sports like soccer and cross country can start up again. So can wedding receptions in Phase 3 counties. And libraries and movie theaters are good to go during Phase 2 reopenings. Well, Clark County is in Phase 2, and that's where Kiggins Theater is located in Vancouver. It's reopening at 25% capacity. Even though with those smaller crowds, staffers tell us they're excited.
The good news is we've had 7 months to really figure out how it is that we can open safely. We've incorporated some of our things here, even just in selling popcorn on Friday nights, which was one of our ways to kind of stay open and stay relevant with folks. Requiring masks inside. We even have seat covers that we're going to introduce once we're able to open again. have one more layer of protection for everyone, and then also know where we need to do our heavy, deep cleaning so that we're able to stay safe between different groups of folks coming through our auditorium.
That independent theater hopes to be open before Halloween. You can check out kigginstheater.com or their social media sites for showtimes. Okay, before we hear from Rod, let's take a live look outside this afternoon from our Rose City Skycam. It's a little bit hazy. That's actually coming up from the California wildfires. Rod, I know you're monitoring the situation. When do you think that smoke will start to clear out?
Our forecast models show it starts to thin during the coming afternoon hours, so that's good news. You know, we've also had some fog pockets. The biggest one that's just been holding on is up in Clark County. Here's Pearson Airfield's camera up along the Columbia River, and it's finally showing that that's starting to break up. So I do believe all areas will see a good bit of sunshine this afternoon. This haze that Brenda told you about, or wildfire smoke, is what should be getting out of here during the afternoon hours, and overnight tonight it will completely be gone. Now, air quality still good as green, yellow is moderate, so generally still a mix of that. We've had that unhealthy spot showing up on the reporting site down in Lyons on and off the last several days. Air quality is horrible down around Medford, but in our immediate area, despite the haze, everything's holding okay. So the yellow on this map, that's the wildfire haze. Notice how this afternoon at 5 p.m. that shifts over the Cascades, moves over into Central Oregon, and then overnight tonight, it really disperses, and for the most part, any smoke is gone by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. So it all means we should have a nice afternoon. Right now, just 62. That's out of PDX, where it's been cloudy and foggy and smoky all morning. 76 at lunch at 4 p.m. with bluer skies, and 67 to 8 o'clock. We will track the latest on Hurricane Delta, and we'll take a look at the latest projections for that heavy rain coming to start the weekend. That's coming up.
All right. Thank you, Rod. City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty is launching a new initiative. It's called Rethink Portland. It's a way to start conversations about making Portland safe for everyone who lives here. Hardesty says it's time to rethink community safety because the current system doesn't work. She says policing has by and large targeted people of color and those dealing with mental health issues. Her initiative focuses on 4 things: limiting the size and scope of the police force, reinvesting money in communities, creating alternatives to police, and decriminalizing nonviolent offenses.
The community's been really clear. People want policing that happens in this community to happen the same way, whether you live in the Southwest Hills or whether you live on the street in downtown Portland. They want a compassionate police force that are there to help solve crimes, not there to intimidate or harass people who are houseless, not to over-police Black and Indigenous and other communities of color.
Hardesty will be holding several community events, including a forum with young people of color this Saturday to discuss their vision of community safety. Well, many downtown businesses are struggling right now because of the pandemic and because of the protests. The Portland Business Alliance reports out of 620 businesses surveyed, 170 are closed temporarily and 20 more are closed for good. We asked the candidates running for Portland mayor what they plan to do about that.
Number one, we are bringing to an end the nightly violence, and we're already seeing that tail off. Number two, we need to find humane solutions to get people off of the sidewalks and off of the streets into better alternatives elsewhere. Number three, we need to clean up the city.
The fact that people are going to want to travel here, so travel and tourism is a great one to get those dollars flowing through downtown and back into those hotels and restaurants located there. Travel and tourism, not just for recreation and leisure, but for business. I've been talking a lot with the film and TV industry, and what does it mean for us to get those shoots happening here again, you know?
Sarah Iannarone also said she'd offer women and minority businesses a chance to put their pop-up shops in vacant city-owned spaces. Well, you can hear more from the candidates running for mayor tomorrow night at 7. KGW is co-hosting a debate with the Oregonian. You can watch it here on KGW or on our website or YouTube page. You'll also find it on OregonLive.com.